respected faculty members, organization members, and conference team, and dear audience. This is Dr. Zia Ahmed from Pakistan, Professor of English. I am here to present my paper on post-colonial Lahore. We need to look at Lahore with four angles at least: the ancient Lahore, Lahore under the Mughals, Lahore under the British, and Lahore as the post-colonial city. It is very well known that Lahore is one of the major and important cities of Pakistan. It has become the literary hub and the center of beauty as well as that of culture and other festivities. People from all over Pakistan and from all over the world come to visit this city on different occasions. This city has been important in history. It was established long ago by the residents of this South Asia. However, when Mughals came, they made their own additions into the city, and as a result, a little bit face of the city was changed. This reflected their culture, their styles of buildings, their styles of life as well. Same was the case with the British. When the British came as colonizers in South Asia, at that time, Lahore again became the focus of their attention. They added new buildings, new roads, and new styles into this Lahore. And as a result, it bore a very important situation which was related to the British colonialism. However, after the decolonization in 1940s, Lahore came in the hands of its local inhabitants. But they too tried to make certain changes into Lahore. So Lahore has a long history, but today we are here only to talk about the Lahore in the 1940s as is represented in the novel of Pepsi Sidwa, The Ice Candy Man, and in the novel of Mohsen Hamid, The Maat Smoke. Both these novels have a time difference of at least of 40 years between them, and I am here to see how Lahore has changed and how these two writers have represented that change in Lahore. Seen in this context, first of all, we need to see how Lahore is related with the other parts of the world, connection being the post-colonial theory or the post-colonialism. Lahore is like London, as London is the metropolis in the post-colonial theory. Besides that, Lahore can also be related to many other cities of Asia, like Delhi is one of them. Same is the case with Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, or many other cities of the world like Tokyo. These cities were mostly under different types of colonization. And this colonization adds the touch of the colonizer into them. As a result, the cities can be immediately divided into two parts. One, that part of the city which represents the colonizer. Another, that part of the city which represents the local inhabitants. So in that way, the post-colonialism immediately goes forward to create two major divides in the culture, in the tradition, in the face of the city, and in the styles of the city. And that is one part, maybe called that of the colonizer's part, another, the colonized part, and it is existing everywhere. However, this city is different from London because London was the metropolis, the center of the post-colonial age or colonial age, and Lahore was one of the periphery. But now, in Pakistan, within Pakistan, Lahore has become the center. So that is why there is a change in the hue and the color, style and culture of the city. And we need to see what are other forces which have converted this city into a mega city, and it is now the force, a recognizing force, and can be taken as the center of different types of cultures. Lahore, according to the post-colonial theory, the city that can be immediately divided with respect to its people and with respect to its areas into a colonized portion and then into a non-recolonized portion. According to the colonized portion, Lahore gives a look which is most akin to the look of megacities of the world. The American cities, for example, the similar type of look is available. The roads are like that, the bridges are like that, metro bus line is like that. Same is the case with many other constructions of buildings. And the names and titles of the buildings, all these things have come forward in order to make it a different city from that city which it used to be in the 1930s or in the 1940s. And ultimately, in this year 2021, we have a different look of Lahore. So Lahore has to be seen not only in this context, but also it has to be seen under the effect of globalization and new colonialism. Globalization, as every one of us knows, that it is an extension of the Commonwealth Organization, and capitalism has played a major role in it, making it a force that can affect any place of the world. Under this umbrella of globalization, not only businesses travel from one place to others, but also the people and the cultures associated with that travel from one place to the other. And most of the time, these businesses are the American or these are the Europeans. As a result, they carry their tradition and the culture as well. Same has happened with Lahore as well. Lahore has changed from its simplicity to a place where it can be called just resembling the life, just resembling where the mega metropolis or the big cities of the world, like the American cities of New York, Washington, or Dallas in the Texas state. Not only this, the force of new colonialism has also impacted in its own way. New colonialism, more related to the capitalism, is the American colonialism. I mean, they have invented certain institutions or the ways and means because of which they can hold their sway or they can control the economies of the world. But alongside that, like the British East India Company in India, they brought their culture, their literature, their tradition, their styles of life, and that has been automatically imposed upon the people of Lahore as well. So Lahore today is a changed Lahore from that Lahore of 1940s. Let us see how it should be viewed with respect to its representation. Today's Lahore, maybe it's 6 hours. That today's Lahore is elite and modern Lahore, and then we had a Lahore which was traditional Lahore. Traditional Lahore is mostly available in the representation of Sidhwa, but elite and modern Lahore will be available to us in a very different perspective in the novel of Mohsin Hamid. If we look at the novel, Sidhwa's novel, that is The Ice Candy Man, there we see the characters like Lenny, Aya, Deen Muhammad, and Ice Candy Man, along with many other characters. These characters show their behaviors and styles in a very traditional way. We do have Lenny, who is one of the baby girl of the Parsi community, but that Lenny too is not in that way a very modern or very different person. It too is immersed in or is busy in showing herself living in Lahore as the Lahore was at that time. Lenny roams about with Aya in different parts of Lahore, and there she looks at the people and describes them. These people are mostly very traditional, very much fit in the environment of Lahore. But Lenny does look at certain other places of the city which are constructed and developed and shown by the British people. For example, British offices are there, Mall Road is there, hospitals are there, and the streets named under their names like McLeod Road. These are the places which show the presence of the British there. But still that presence is not that heavy. Most of the characters, most of the places which are described by Sidhwa, they show a presence of the local culture where people are celebrating festivities, where the people are gathering together, where Aya and Lenny go different places and meet the people who are very much Lahoris. Their foods are Lahoris, their appearances, for example, their interaction with them, and especially when all communities like Hindus and Sikhs live together, they show their particular behaviors in the same way as Lahore has been showing in the Mughal area. So that is very much traditional, according to Sidhwa, other than a few portions and parts of the city where the Parsis live or where the British live, British colony, for example. And another dimension which was added to Lahore, it was the train, the railway train that used to run from India and into Lahore as well. If you look at the character of Deen Muhammad, he's too very much a village farmer, and he appears to be quite significant in this context because he shows all those traditions and all those styles and all those behaviors which possibly a Lahori might have had. Same is the case with Ice Candy Man. But In the novel of Sidhwa, character of Aya is quite significant. She is real India. She seems to be an upholder of the tradition of India, and she seems the person who reflects the division in India when Pakistan and India were created out of the South Asian subcontinent. And that goes to show what is the suffering, what is the style of pain she goes to suffer. She's molested at the time of partition, and she has to undergo so many other troubles as well. And that goes to reflect the love for India, or the style for India, or the appearance of India, or the nature of India. All these things are portrayed through the character of Aya. So that is again very much traditional. There's no touch of modernness. There's no touch of any of the sufferings of the postmodern age. There's nothing like that. And the places will represent the same way. The places will be traditional. Some part of the colonial and post-colonial divide will appear in Sidhwa's novel, but not in that clear-cut way, where 100% one part of the city represents those elite, and another part of the city does not represent them. It's just a local one. So Sidhwa's novel is traditional one. I shall come back to the character of Aya in this novel later on when I have gone through Hamid's novel as well. Hamid's Lahore, as is portrayed in the novel Mahsamud, is again a very different Lahore. Of course, it should be, because this Lahore is the Lahore of 21st century, where it has undergone, after the effects of postcolonialism, it has undergone the effect of globalization, neo-colonialism, and Americanization. All these things have gone through it, and the changed face of the world has impacted this Lahore as well. That is why it will be very interesting to see how in Mahsamud the Lahore, traditional Lahore, seems to be changed. Like if you look at the parts of Lahore which are represented in this novel, they show that Lahore, elite Lahore, is quite different, is different, is eminent, is eminently available. And the other part of the Lahore is going smaller, is becoming smaller, and the representation of tradition is becoming smaller. So that's why we have a Lahore which seems to be a very much international city as compared to that Lahore which is represented in the novel of Sidhwa. This is a globalized Lahore, because now we have number of chains, number of offices, number of businesses that have creeped into Lahore, and they have erected their buildings in the international style. So as a result, the face of Lahore changes. The roads, for example, are of international standard, and they do have the shape and the hue of the internationalization and that of Americanization as well. Now, here is one very different point, that there used to be a little struggle at that time when colonial power was available and the part of the city represented 200 people. At that time, the resistance and struggle between the two cultures, though it was present, but it didn't highlight in that way, because other cultures were also colliding with each other, like the Sikh culture or the Hindu culture at the time when Pakistan was established. There were the cultural collisions, but it was not like that as we have today, because that cultural collision impacted the people physically, and after that Lahore became peaceful, or the city became a Pakistani city, and it represented Pakistan just after the partition. But in case of Mohsin Hamid's novel, we have a clear divide between the two groups of people, let us say, two parts of Lahore, let us say. One group which represents the elitism, which represents the kind of modernized, globalized, or Americanized part of the city, and other part of the city are just traditional. But dominance is here now for that part of the city which is elitist, or which is powerful in the sense that they have the powerful jobs, they have the powerful money, businesses with them, and because of that, they show to be holding the ground, and other people are dependent on them. And this is the type of Lahore today we have in Hamid's novel. In Hamid's novel, we have three prominent characters. One is Mumtaz, which is affectionately called as Taji also. Other is Daru, whose real name is Tara Shikhu, and Aurangzeb, who's called lovingly, affectionately by the writer as Uzi in this novel. These three characters are symbolic of this modernization, of the importance of money, of the globalization, of the ways which one would adopt if one lives in such kind of environment. All these characters go to show this type of environment. We shall be talking about these characters separately. First of all, we should know how Lahore is overall having its impact, its change impact. Lahore is now, as I said already, an international city, a globalized Lahore. Here, the most important thing that has happened is that the money has become more important. If money is there, life is good. If money is there, people are happy. If money is there, people are having relations with you. And if money is not there, at that time you become just a laborer or a person who is insignificant. That is the change. That's the painful change that has come in the behaviors or the styles of the people. All these three characters that I have mentioned, they go to represent that. Let us have a view of all these three characters. Like we have, first of all, Mumtaz. Mumtaz is a very highly qualified, foreign qualified person who has married a Pakistani man and she's come in Lahore. She is, however, a self-willed woman and she's also an emancipated woman, and she is not willing to submit herself to the man whom even she's married. And she tries to show herself that she's worthwhile and she can do the things which she wants to do, and she doesn't take care of any traditions. Like she becomes a mother, but even at that time she doesn't behave like a traditional mother, and instead tries to behave that she is less concerned about her son and less concerned about her family or husband, and more concerned about the things which she wants to do, for which she is wishing and willing. And that means that herself is more important as compared to the other family system or the tradition of that city in which the people used to live. She can make her own decision. She's an emancipated woman. She can make her decision. And even if the decision has wrong consequences, she would do that. Even she becomes Manto and writes an article in the novel it's shown because she's got a desire to write on, but the subject which she takes is a very daring subject, that is writing about the prostitutes of Lahore, what is their life and how they have become prostitutes. This was a sensitive topic she took up, and she wrote an article under the pen name of Manto. She becomes Manto. She changes her personality. She changes her identity as well in order to succeed. For the sake of success, she becomes a lover as well. She behaves just as if she is quite independent and free. She's got no social responsibilities. Some of the people, though, have condemned, but I think she should be seen in the sense of this modernization and globalized perspective, that she needs the help and support of a person, and that is why she becomes the lover of her own husband's friend and passes time with him, and for this she has got no regrets. Because she, in the novel, we find at certain places, gives the impression that all these elite women do have friendships and they do have support of the other people other than their husbands, and they do have this type of style of life that they discuss these things quite openly, and she thinks that this thing is not objectionable according to her, though it may be objectionable. In fact, she has become quite a postmodern woman. Her character, her style of life can be digested only if it is seen in the lens of postmodernism, or if it is seen in the lens of globalization or Americanization. I mean the values. I'm not going to question the American values. I'm not going to question anyone's values. But my point of view is that the change which has come here in Lahore, in the characters of Lahore, in the places of Lahore, and Lahore is no more a simple traditional city, it's a globalized city. And that is represented in Mohsin Hamid's novel. In order to further understand, I would suggest that we should compare the character of Aya in Ice Candy Man by Bepsi Sidhwa and the character of Mumtaz as represented in Mohsin Hamid's novel Matsimo. Both these women represent actually two different portions of Lahore, two different times of Lahore, two different situations of Lahore. Let us see how they represent two different portions of Lahore. As I said, one portion is elite, another portion is traditional. Traditions and cultural values exist only in the traditional part. And the modernness, the love for money, love for late night parties, love for celebrations with liquor and wine, love for enjoying big cars and having big money wrongly or rightly, that is shown in the elitist section of Lahore. And Mumtaz goes to represent that section. So she is entirely different from that traditional Aya, as Lahore's traditional part is different from the modern part of Lahore. And similarly, if we look at the women's appearance or femininity, or her rights or her style of life, Aya's style of life is quite traditional. It is quite Indian. It's quite related to the past, how she looks like that. She is a source of attraction for so many people, but she behaves in a way as the Pakistani women or Indian women used to behave in the start of 20th century. But Mumtaz doesn't seem to be like that woman. She seems the woman more related to the women of Europe, more related to the women of America. So that is the change which is represented through the character of Mumtaz and the character of Aya. Moreover, Aya's character is a dependent character. Aya's character is not free, it is not earning, is not reflecting on the society. It is just a body and is trying to show what actually India is. And so, through simplicity and through very much coloring of her character in the color of this India or South Asia, that tradition has been shown there. But in case of Mumtaz, we don't find that tradition. That tradition is gone back with Aya, and now it is the tradition which should be shown with respect to globalization and Americanization of the businesses of the ways. Same is the case with the men which are represented in Matsapo. For example, the men are money hungry here. Money plays the big role there. For example, Daru, the hero of the story, he loses his job only because of money. He loses his life and he loses his lifestyle as well only because of money. And it's the money for which he has good friends around him. And for money, he can do anything. For example, even he converts himself to selling of the drugs in Lahore. And for this, he's got no regrets at all. Whatever society has done with him, that's a different matter. But he changes and there's no regret. There's no regret for the loss of these values in the representation of Mumtaz. There's no regret in the representation of this Daru. But that regret did exist in the novel of Bepsi Sidhwa. So this is the change that we have here in both of these novels. In my conclusive remarks, I can say that Lahore is now, at this moment, very different from the Lahore which used to be. Because of the change in the characters, because of the change in the places, because of the change of its appearance, Lahore has become like that, like many other post-colonial cities. And the struggle and the kind of rift is going on, but at this moment, the winning portion comes in the portion, that portion of Lahore where the elitism is existing. So today's Lahore is a new colonized Lahore, a postmodern Lahore, and a globalized Lahore. We need to see Lahore in these two contexts. And here, thank you very much for listening to me. For watching this video, and thank you all this team organization which has established and made possible this event. I congratulate to all of these people. Thank you.